Hello, Harry here, and welcome back to another episode of Jog On, a podcast that brings you stories from the world of running and adventure. But before we begin with this episode, I wanted to speak directly to you, the listener or viewer. I understand that if we are lucky enough to be within your library of podcasts, then Jog On is probably not one that you would consider a regular publisher. Sometimes we can dip as low as 1 to 2 episodes in an entire month. And I just wanted to explain the current reasons behind this. Jog On is fast becoming more than just a podcast. As many of you will know, we also create running videos on our main YouTube channel, Jog On with Harry Morgan. Our subscribed audience over there is now over 1,100 strong. Alongside this, I sometimes get invited to go and give talks on the benefits of running and getting out the door to explore. Most recently, I was invited to deliver a school assembly to a few hundred primary school children over Zoom. I'm hoping to be able to publish that talk both on the podcast and as a video. But what does this all mean? Well, as a point of policy for this podcast, I want to be able to release episodes that I would consider of at least a reasonable level of quality, both in the selecting of the guest, the topic, the equipment setup, and the edit. A single episode is many hours of work. I absolutely could increase the volume of episodes by hitting record, then stop, then top and tail, and publishing. But the quality would take a hit. And quite simply put, I want you, the audience, to know that when you see that the latest Jog On episode has been released, you can click on it and know that it's likely that you're in for something good. I still make no money at all whatsoever from this, but when that day comes when either a sponsor comes on board or enough people are purchasing the Jog On top, you can email a size request to thisisjogon@gmail.com. One of the first things I will do is begin to build a team around me to make this a more regular show. But rest assured, Jog On will continue. We won't quit, and I will continue to bring you new episodes with an ongoing policy of quality over quantity. If you want to help Jog On grow, recommend us to just one friend who might enjoy this podcast. It really helps us out. Let's begin. Today's episode is the second conversation I've ever done on the Jog On podcast, which features 2 guests at once. Simon and Sally are a couple based in the north of England, who established a running club a few years back known as Ossy Joggers. It's just so nice hearing the accent and the northern accent again. Down here, it's just posh people that just walk around with coffee. You know what I mean? There's just more character up north, and I kind of miss it.
As you take a sip from your coffee cup, you said.
Exactly, yeah. On Jog On, we've regularly heard about how running clubs begin as something very small and then take time before building quite a bit of traction and getting big.
Yeah, it's a bit bonkers, really.
Ossy Joggers began with just Sally and a woman known as Lynn, who turned up just because of a leaflet through her door.
Where it started with kind of Sally and one person running around.
Lynn.
Lynn.
We'll bring up Lynn. Ossy Joggers now has hundreds of dedicated members. I spoke to Simon and Sally about the difficulties of keeping this running community together during lockdown.
These, hundreds of people which are coming out every week to come for a run, it's just all gone.
And also about a very special reward that they recently won.
To hear what people had written and, hear how it impacted them over the lockdown, it was really emotional and, So, yeah.
After a few difficulties setting up. Test 1 2 test. Okay, that's live on there. We're live on there. That's good. When I say live, I don't mean we're actually live somewhere. We were ready to begin. It was a great pleasure to speak with Simon and Sally about their running journey. And if you're a member of Ossy Joggers who's watching or listening right now, hello, welcome. I'm Harry Morgan. This is Jog On. And please welcome Simon and Sally from Ossy Joggers. I think probably the best thing to start with is chronologically, guys, is go right back to January 2014 when you first start, which is Sally, yourself, and one other lady, Lynn, who turns up. My first question is, what inspired you to start a running group? How did that come into your mind?
Well, basically, I've met my lovely husband and I really just wanted to sort of run with other people. I was quite new to the area, I didn't really know anyone. I was volunteering at the time for a community group. And they wanted to look at trying to set running up for like beginners. And initially I was really apprehensive about it because I was a bit like, oh, well, I don't know anyone and no one's going to turn up, and they didn't. So that's kind of how it came about. So it just kind of set a time. It was literally, I think it was leaflets.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, wow. Yeah, so I went to the park at like 7:00 and it was cold, it was dark, it was raining. I was really wanting to run back to my car and not do it. But then Lynn came. She turned 70. Was it last year? Yeah.
Oh wow.
She turned 70 last year. She came and she's like, "Oh, I've just signed up to do a 10K run. I've never run before. I'm doing it for a charity, and I've received this leaflet through my door." We just went for this like jog, and then it kind of went from there, really.
There's slightly more to the first meeting than that, though, in the fact that Sally had advertised this big meeting, and because she didn't know the area we're from, the park that they met at has 3 entrances. The main entrance, which is where Sally said, meet at the main entrance, but Sally didn't mean the main entrance. She meant the side entrance. So Sally stood at the side entrance. Lynn was stood at the main entrance, and then happened to just stumble upon Sally moments before she was going to disappear and not do it. So Ossy Joggers might never have been had they not eventually just met each other randomly.
Isn't that crazy? Sort of butterfly effect. And Lynn was just hovering around the corner. I love that Lynn actually just got a leaflet through her door and just went, "Yep, I'll turn up to this park and meet someone."
I know, yeah, she did, and she still comes today. She's an absolute legend. From then on in, basically, like a couple more came. There was probably about 15 of us. I remember once when I came home and I literally ran through the door to Simon. I was like 20 people have turned up. I was like, I'm so excited.
It must be.
I was just so happy because for so long it was just me and a couple, and then we went to 20 people, and it was just the best feeling. So Catch 5K was a massive thing, and then we started to do other training programs, which was 5 to 10K. 10K races, and then we eventually did half marathon training programs. We haven't done a marathon one yet.
Well, it wasn't a pipeline pre-lockdown.
Yeah.
Else,
right.
But...
And what do you think was the main source of your marketing? Has it been word of mouth? Have you continued to leaflet around the area?
The growth of that came online through the Facebook group. So whilst we've got presence on kind of a number of social platforms, I think particularly for a large part of the demographic who run with Ossy Joggers, Facebook is kind of the core platform that harmonises across everyone that they use it. So actually for us, that's been a large source of kind of the new members and inquiries and things all come through that group. If you look at the kind of the stats and stuff on there now, monthly we'll have between kind of 800, 900 people who've actively done something on the Facebook group. So it's quite significant in terms of the volume and reach of that now. So I guess once you get to that point, it becomes quite organic that it only takes a handful of those people to tell someone else now. And
of course, yeah.
More people come. So we're now at that point where really, from a promoting point of view, you don't actively promote.
There's a sort of natural snowballing effect.
The kind of logo and thing of Ossy Joggers is not subtle. So once people have seen it, the vest and stuff like that, the races, they kind of want to know a bit more. So particularly in the early days, a lot of that growth came through social and Facebook.
It must be a strange thought now looking back. If someone had come to you at January 2014 as you're standing there shivering, having just met Lynn, that 6 years later you're going to have nearly 900 members. That's quite active members. That's quite surreal. And how exciting it must have been to watch this thing snowball over time.
Yeah, and I've learned so much. I mean, actually, that initial meeting makes me sound really disorganised, which I am kind of. But it's made me be a lot more organised, because when we met in person, it was literally, we had 4 runs a week, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, which would encompass 6 different groups on a Monday, involving sometimes Couch to 5K, return to injury group. We call them gentle joggers, runners. Actually, behind the scenes, it's like military sort of precision.
It's kind of not just Sally and then me doing some admin bits in the background of the whole team. So I think that's been another real benefit as well. There's been people who have come through kind of Couch to 5K, have been coming running, but then have gone on to kind of become qualified run leaders. And that's really positive as well, because actually for some of those people, that's been a big learning curve and a big commitment and step for them to take.
So it's just all of them benefits. I think we've got 16 run leaders now all together, thing for me, as well as the organisation of the sort of running side.
Definitely. There's no better place to open your heart after you're emotionally broken from running up a big hill with a group of people anyway. So
there's something in it. I don't know where it comes from, but people are just a bit more open when they run.
Yeah.
In the early days when we were running, and I was running alongside someone, and they just broke down crying, and they just let the heart out, and was just about everything. And I just thought, wow, this is the power of running and exercising, and it does break down them barriers sometimes. And I think we've got a really key opportunity to use that.
We turn up at events now and we have kind of, so the Accrington 10K, which is a big event near ourselves that happens yearly, we kind of the largest group there each year now in that event. So I think it was 80 odd of us last time.
Yeah,
turned up at it. Brilliant. So we're not small in terms of numbers in competitive events and things like that. However, the kind of premise is more around the community and the relationships that people build through running than the sole kind of competitive times of what you get.
You must stand out as a group being at events and clubs, because for people just listening, your kit is sort of blue and lime green. It's quite bold and it's got Ossy Joggers. Great logo, by the way. There's a lot of clubs out there. I'll get shot for saying this, but there are a lot of clubs out there with very bad logos. Like they're really like, there's a club near here, no names mentioned, but you look at their logo and it's no one still can work out what on earth it is. And then there's another one that's got like a strange caterpillar on it. It's very weird, but yours is actually very, very strong, very bold. And the name Ossy Joggers in particular, I wondered how that came about, because it's quite a unique name. What made you come up with that?
So I can't remember what we were called first. I don't know. But we were basically, me and Simon were sat at home, and he loves this story. He literally tells everybody this story.
I've never heard it. You're very welcome.
Yeah, over a glass of wine. I was like, we really need to come up with a name for us. We're from a place called Oswald Twistle, which is a town in Lancashire.
Locally, everyone calls it Ossy. Is kind of
right. Okay, so that is an abbreviation.
Yeah. So Sally used to meet at Riddings Park. That's where the group met originally. So within that park, though, before kind of we were born, I'm a bit of a history buff, so I know that there used to be a dancing group called the Ossy Cloggers. So cloggers and joggers rhymes quite nicely, and so how Ossy Joggers became really, I was like, I've read this random piece about the Ossy Cloggers, why can you not be the Ossy Joggers? So that's essentially how it came to be.
And he loves the fact, absolutely loves the fact that he thought of the name as well. He's like,
I mean, yeah, why not? It's great.
And runners is a bit hardcore for me, so I was like, something a bit more gentle. So joggers is
yeah, no problem with the word jog around here. Trust me. Ossy. Sally, I want you to pay attention to your story a little bit more. First of all, I was fascinated to learn that you were a Morris dancer for a while, and then you sort of made a transition to running. I mean, you're the first person I've come across who's kind of done both worlds. What was that? You sort of ran at school and you Morris danced for 12 years. How does that transition happen?
It's literally one of my regrets is putting that up on that website, because absolutely everybody seems to have found it, no matter who I talked to. I thought it was quite hidden, but it's not. Unfortunately, I did give up Morris dancing when I was about 16 or 18. But I didn't actually start running until probably my early to mid 20s. For me, like when I talk to people at the group, they go back to school days and they go back to running and how they felt when they went to school. One of my inspirations is actually my best friend, and she at school got shoved into doing this race, which she absolutely didn't want to do. And she was like sick afterwards. And now she's an absolutely unbelievable runner. I mean, she's just amazing. But it's just, people go back to that day at school where they had to do a race or anything like that. So anyway, to early mid-20s, and I was just a bit like, I don't really like running. And I didn't really have that much of a bad experience at school, but I decided to do the sort of Couch to 5K program myself. So I downloaded the app on my phone and went out and did it. And then after that, I then had Poppy, which was our first daughter. And then I went back to Couch to 5K again. But it's always been a sort of struggle with me, because I think I always didn't like running, and it was just one year that I thought, you know what, it's not going to beat me. I'm going to make sure that I like it. I've always had a very sort of up and down relationship with running, which I still do today.
And why is that, Sally? What is it about running and those moments where you really just go, oh, I cannot be doing with this running, this is horrible, this is painful? What is it that brings that on? What is it that you don't like?
It's always, and the motto for Ossy Joggers is hardest step out the front door. When I'm running, I absolutely love it. And afterwards, that feeling, you just think, yes, I've done it. But when you sat at home and you're in your running kit, and you're just like, I just don't think I can do it. Like, I don't think I can get out that door. I really don't want to run 3 miles, 6 miles or whatever. And I think I'll still have that relationship with running. I think it's because I'm not a natural runner. I'm not someone who found it easy when I was younger. But as I said, when I'm out there and I'm actually running, I absolutely love it. But when I'm sat at home, I just don't have that natural, which some people have, they just get up every morning, don't they? I'm like, yeah, do my run. That's part of me. Whereas that's not naturally in me. It's a real kind of effort to get my gear on and go out the front door.
Yeah, that level of resistance is different in different people. And it's amazing how no matter what your ability, everyone experiences it to some extent at some point. And you're right, it's that sort of edge of the bed moment of, oh, and then for some reason everything changes a mile later and you feel great and you're glad you left.
I think still Ossy Joggers helped Sally with that, and even now, though, even though as big as it is. So we did, at this time of year, there's another 10k race that happens that was on at the weekend. So we're not able to do organised kind of runs at the moment, but everyone this weekend did
10k your way, it was called.
Yeah, so 10k your way. So people did a 10k from their front door. Some people from the group will be out delivering goodie bags for people for completing that kind of 10k from their front door. But yesterday, there's no way that Sally would have gone for a run without having the support network and knowing that despite the fact that lockdown's happening and everything else, there are 80 other people out there somewhere around this local area doing a 10k.
Yeah.
My choice of route was foolish for yesterday. We went a very muddy, hilly route in the mud and snow after the rain, which wasn't the best idea ever. But we saw probably 6 or 7 other people who were doing the same thing that we were. So actually, you're still part of that community. But there's no way that you would run a 10k yesterday off your own back had you not had the kind of Ossy Joggers thing going on in the background. So even in kind of lockdown, it can still be important, not just for Sally, but for lots of other people to know that there's still that kind of community of people doing something.
And I think people often reference clubs and groups like yours as they use the word accountability. It kind of holds you slightly accountable that, like you say, it's sort of, you almost feel like you have a slight responsibility. Other people are doing this, get me out. And then the moment that happens, you feel great and you're glad you did it. But do you find sometimes, Sally, that, there's a sort of an accountability there of like, no, there's other people out there, I need to get going. And that just gives you that much more of a boost.
Oh, absolutely. And I talk openly with my group to say that if I wasn't run leading tonight, I would be at home with my feet up with a cup of coffee in my hand. And I joke about it, but it's totally true. And because I'm leading like that night, I feel like I'm coming across like quite negative in a sense of I don't love running. Like I absolutely, I do love it. But if I'm leading, if I've organised something, definitely helps me as well, doesn't it? And hopefully that's why it works. I think, well, what will motivate me?
I would just think Lynn turned up in 2014 to the wrong gate after following a leaflet. That for me is enough motivation. If Lynn can follow a leaflet to the wrong gate, then anyone can run. Simon, what about you? Were you always, when Sally first was there that night, were you already running at that time, or is this more recent development? Have you always run?
Yeah, so my running story is slightly different, Sally. So I used to run quite competitively, not at long distance running though. So long distance running for me used to be running more than 400 metres. So I used to do sprinting. So I ran relatively competitively at kind of 1, 2, 400.
1, 2 and 4, yeah, okay, fantastic.
Yeah, and then my family have always had a big affiliation with the Great North Run. So when I was 17, I did that for the first time. I've done it 11 times now.
Brilliant.
Basically, my mum, her family are all from Newcastle and South Shields, where it finishes. So we always used to go up all the way through my childhood, and my brothers who are older than me would be running the race itself. So I guess for me, running has always been kind of something that either I've done or people very close to me have done. So
it actually took me on our first date. Was a run.
Oh yes, we went on a run and then ended up running up a really big hill, and then we dropped down, and I was like, just calling up my parents to get some water. There's no better way to introduce your girlfriend to your parents by them being covered in sweat, mud, and everything else. But yeah, so for me, it's always been part of kind of my life, and to the extent that I took Sally up to the Great North Run because that was your first half marathon. And at the end of that, I proposed on BBC. Wow. Sally on there. So
Oh my word.
I know.
Yeah, so you think about athletics and that track-based running. Whilst you're part of a team there, it's very individual for me, long distance running and kind of the training for that. So prior to meeting Sally, I did the Edinburgh Marathon in 2010. I've done London since then, but for me, a lot of my training has always been very on my own and individual, not part of a group. So for me, actually, it's been really nice to have that changed experience within Ossy Joggers. So I do get, as I said, I don't get out there with the group runs as much because normally Sally's leading the groups and I'll be babysitting the kids at home while she's doing that. So for the large part, I kind of go out or arrange to meet people outside the normal core club times. But it's been a really pleasant change to not just be kind of slogging it all on your own all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is the amount of time goes up so much as well. You know, I myself trained at 400 and 800, and it's a weird world that only a few people ever really get to experience, of going down to that track and sort of bringing your spikes and then just slowly doing your strides and everything. It's almost a different sport at that point. It's that different, that form of running. And you're right. It's just the sheer amount of time we spend running when you start to move up in distance allows you all these things. And certainly in terms of like the challenges and everything, you could never imagine a 400 meter group going out and delivering brownies and sunflower seeds to older ladies. You know what I mean? It's a different. So it opens up all these opportunities, because the amount of time you're out, it's almost like going on tour. It's an adventure, really, long distance running. We hit 2020 and the madness of the world happens, and COVID hits and lockdown and everything. What was that like for Ossy Joggers? How quickly did you realise that things were going to change a little bit and you were going to need to adapt how the club worked?
I kind of went into fight mode straight away. We actually had a run on the Monday, which was our run and talk event, our last run and talk event. And it was called Random Acts of Kindness. And that's where kind of the random acts of kindness happened throughout lockdown. And then I just went into fight mode that night. I just sat down and I just thought, these, hundreds of people which are coming out every week to come for a run, it's just all gone. I was like, we've never experienced anything like this before. I came up with a very brief sort of plan, which was initially, when we would usually have our runs on a Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, one run leader would go live on Facebook, which they absolutely loved. No, they hated. But they still did it. They would go live on Facebook and they'd just say hi to everyone, how they're doing, any announcements that we had. And then they do like a warm up, and then we'd put a route on, and then the plan would be for everyone to go out the front door after the warm-up and go for the run like they normally would, obviously by themselves. So weekly challenges, monthly challenges, we've done absolutely loads.
The thing for me, kind of looking at it from not the outside in, but not as at the forefront as Sally is, we had this massive group of people, this support network. So when you turned up to do runs in person, you had kind of, as Sally said before, a lot of run leaders who were there to organise groups, take them out, everything else. That world suddenly became very, very small, and it felt a large part landing on Sally's shoulders initially. One thing that's probably developed over this year is that Sally's probably let go a little bit more of that and allowed some of that, the ideas to come from elsewhere and allow it to come through. Because at the beginning, it was, as Sally said, she was in fight mode. She was trying to kind of do absolutely everything herself. And you can't manage on even remote things.
No, you need to delegate.
Yeah. In terms of the challenges and everything else, it's really been about how you can keep people as connected as possible when they're not allowed to physically connect. So we've got something underway at the moment this month. It's still ongoing. So we've got kind of Miss Your Face race that's going on at the moment.
I saw that. I saw the hashtag Miss Your Face. I was like, what's that about?
We've sent everyone all the run leaders' faces, and we've got place names in the local area that either are identical to run leaders' surnames or as close as you can get them. And then people have to run with their little mini run leader and take a selfie at the place with the run leader with you on the photo. So there are lots of little challenges like that just try and keep people engaged and connected. And I think one of the best things initially in that the first period of lockdown was when a lot of people were isolating or shielding. We would create a suggested route for people as well. So on those go lives, there would be attached to that a suggested route to run for people. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, if they were shielding, we'd make sure that route went past their house. So during that day, because people could choose to go whenever they wanted, or during that week, one lady who was shielding kind of said, I can't sit down with a cup of tea without someone knocking on my window and waving at me from Ossy Joggers running past.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, but it's just things like that have been kind of thinking outside the box to keep people feeling part of not only just Ossy Joggers, but kind of part of human life when we've been in this strange situation that we've been in, really.
Yeah, my other favourite event was we did OJ Olympics. It was meant to be the Olympics last year, wasn't it? So we did, one of our run leaders knows someone who actually ran with the Olympic torch. So we managed to get this Olympic torch and then got the kids involved. It was like a 1.5K or 2K. They ran round and then they stood on this podium with this Olympic torch, and then they passed it on to the next group of kids who ran round. It was, that was fun. So it's trying to get the families involved and kids involved in it as well, trying to keep them active as well.
Sally, you mentioned that since starting this and doing it over the last 6 years that you'd learned a lot and discovered all these things. And I guess a big part of that is learning the impacts that both the sort of the community aspect of putting a club and a group together has, but also running itself. Could you just expand any more on what you have learned? And are there any examples of a person that comes to mind who was this very, they've totally changed completely as a person, because we are who we are, but who've been really impacted by Ossy Joggers and who've really just made a huge change from one area of life through going through Ossy Joggers and now being a really committed member? Are there examples like that?
Yeah. So there is a couple called Jackie and Paul. They joined 2 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, potentially. Jackie had never run before. Paul had run prior, but then due to chest problems, he'd stopped running. So Jackie started Jackie started in the January with the Couch 5K program. Absolutely loved it, and then eventually persuaded Paul to come. We call him Hightower because he's a giant. He's so tall. So they did the Couch 5K program, and they did it amazing. And then eventually Paul then became one of our run leaders, and Jackie is on our committee now. And they do absolutely so much. They do our 100 club draw, and they've both progressed. They've done 10Ks, they've done half marathons, and they're just absolutely flying, and they love it. They said they just can't imagine life without Ossy Joggers now, which is just really, really nice to hear.
There are other people that probably spring to mind who, for more personal reasons, have been to Ossy Joggers and found that support network, and really it's become a central part of who they are. There's a couple of people, and I don't necessarily want to name and shame them on here of who they are, but
if
they listen, they'll know exactly who they are. But who have come and had some quite traumatic things happen to them, and that have meant they're not particularly confident anymore in who they are and what they want. And some of those people have gone right through to become run leaders and are massive advocates for kind of Ossy Joggers. It's become a really central part of their life now, and actually they've made lots of new friendships there, and really it's really nice when you have those people. You see that they kind of grow and develop as a person there and become really confident, natural kind of leaders of kind of groups of people. And from where they were to get there is really, it's lovely to see. And for me, it's one of the most important things about the group.
Someone else who springs to mind is one of our younger members. She's one of the daughters of someone who comes regularly, and it was so funny when she used to come. She used to stop and she'd be like, "Oh, can't do this, don't want to do this," having a proper like tantrum. And we were like, "Come on, you can do it," like encouraging her. And then she'd walk for a bit, and then we'd loop back for her, and she really didn't like it. But her mum persuaded her each week to come. And then eventually she started talking to people. Her confidence grew. Today, her school have said the change in her at school, her concentration. She's absolutely flying. She runs with our runners now. She's an absolute gem. I always say to her, when she first used to come and she used to have these tantrums and be like, "I'm not running anymore," she for me is an absolute superstar and a really great story as well.
Perhaps there's an opening there for starting up a kind of a youth group at some point. Have your own kids shown any interest so far in joining you on a run?
Yeah, so they've both been to some runs that Ossy Joggers have done. Myself and Poppy, who's our oldest daughter, she's done park run a few times. She did junior but didn't like it because she said it wasn't far enough, so she wants...
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
She does the adult one, so
that's amazing.
She's on her way to getting her next. She's got her first t-shirt. She's on her way to getting her next t-shirt. We were down to 28 something, which is pretty decent for. And then Annabelle, our youngest daughter, she's only 6, so she's done a few of the kind of kids races at some of the other local events and stuff. But last summer we were hoping we could start her on park running, but not yet. But I'm sure she'll want to when.
That's probably one of the more important things that they've learned from Ossy Joggers, from us too, is that whole cheering other people on, supporting people, the impact that you can have by just helping others out. And they see that all the time when they're always there at every single event, bless them. We've stood there cheering, usually complaining, "How slow is mummy? When's she going to finish?" So they have learned that side of it, but they also, our eldest one especially, absolutely loves running, and she motivates me sometimes as well. Bless her.
One of the big aspects, of course, to this club, and one of the things that happened a little while back that was quite exciting, is the winning of an award. Can you just sort of explain to people listening, guys, who don't know about this award, how that came about? Was it the club was put forward for it, and what the award itself? I understand it's called Athletics and Running at Home Award. Could you just give a bit more background on how that award happened for the club?
Yeah, so we're part of England Athletics, and each year they do a volunteer award, and this year they had a new award which was called Athletics and Running at Home, and anyone could nominate the club to be put forward for an award. We didn't actually write the nomination. We didn't do any sort of nominations this year because we didn't have the time really to nominate us. We were doing everything else. So it came as a absolutely, massive surprise to know that we'd actually even been nominated. And
yes, it was a couple of the members of the club who'd nominated who'd come along and kind of been impacted by it that nominated us.
So yeah, we got through to the Northwest Awards, which we won, which was a massive shock. Yeah. Really massive shock, absolutely blown away by that. So then we got put through to the national awards, and then we won that as well. So it was I was actually working a night shift when the awards, because it was all done via Zoom, so we missed out on a massive party this year. But it was still so exciting to watch it, just blown away really by winning it. You don't realise sometimes kind of the impact that it has on people, and to hear what people had written, and hear how it impacted them over the lockdown. It was it was really emotional, and the trophy is up proudly.
That's amazing. A nice kind of verification of all the work that gets put in by all these guys who give up all their free time to do it. It's nice to have some recognition of that on a slightly more official level.
Yeah, it is, and it's not. It's completely not what we do it for, but obviously it's lovely to have that recognition that what you're doing is impacting on people and is impacting positively, because this is a specific award for, in essence, getting people active and feeling engaged. Kind of the Northwest Awards in themselves, as we said, we were shocked at winning that. There's kind of over kind of 400 clubs that encompass the Northwest that are affiliated or unaffiliated or through Run Together for England Athletics. So to kind of win that even was great. But yeah, to win the national one was,
National one that's the next level of just like, whoa, hang on, this is pretty big.
yeah, definitely. A massive group of people which all came together, last year and this year, which helped us kind of get through the lockdown. I mean, the Athletics and Running at Home, the new award was basically about how groups and clubs have managed to motivate people to still get out running even when you couldn't meet in person. So yeah, it was just great to hear that it was just that recognition. Yeah,
it's a theme that's started to come up more and more on this podcast that is Jog On. Is this idea of that we live slightly odd lives now, where we're kind of in these strange brick buildings, and there's not that sort of we're kind of locked into this slightly virtual world a lot, and there's not so much of like, oh, John's heading out, and do you want me to grab you some milk? That kind of real community thing that perhaps there was 40, 50 years ago that we hear about so often and see even in documentaries and things. And I think that one of the beautiful things about running, but also running clubs, is it's a very natural exercise, and it's something that we're meant to do biologically. But then this kind of club and group setting that you guys have, a community and sort of this tribal thing, appears to be this thing we're now realizing is something that's very innate to sort of the human state, and there's a huge sense of satisfaction of feeling like there are other people around you in that same setting. And I think a lot of people often are quite amazed to be, well, why is this thing having such an effect on me? Why am I so dedicated? But it's because it's offering up this community, it's offering up a support system that is something that arguably gets lost a bit now, with people sort of in these boxed in offices that then drive to work, drive back, or as it may be now work from their own houses. So I think what you guys have there is something that's really on almost like a very biological or sort of foundational human level is delivering something that's very satisfying. And I think that's why you get that level of connectivity and such a strong such a strong impact on the community.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that you get that in, as you say, in any form of running, from a large scale event that you go to through to the parkrun tribe of people, you get that in those events. And I think bringing that down to a club level and keeping that kind of community feel just takes it a little step further for people and helps to to kind of give them those strong connections out there and being out and feeling part of the community that they live in, rather than, as you say, being kind of almost kind of like a lemming going from here to work, to do this, to do that, to being stuck at home. You can become a bit on that, in that bubble of just living your own life and not really connecting to people outside of a virtual space. So yeah, definitely it's really important for people from a community and I guess, as you said, feeling part of a tribe and feeling part of something that is kind of embedded within the area they live in.
Absolutely.
I think as well is we just keep it real. I think we don't think we're amazing, and we don't think that we're, we just...
You don't polish the trophy every night.
I know, yeah.
We're the best.
We try and engage people just through everyday means, and for me, it works, and we're not too hard on ourselves or anything like that. We keep it quite light-hearted a lot of the time. There's no pressure. Really supportive environment, and people can come and go as they please as well. But we always try and keep that level of connection.
The final question I had for you guys really is, what is the future for Ossy Joggers? You've touched on the fact that maybe some kind of marathon-based thing might be for you personally, Sally, as well, to go do a marathon, but perhaps you'll set up something for people who want to touch on that really great distance. What do you think is going to happen next with the club in terms of numbers, where it goes next? Where do you want to see it go?
It's a really good question. I think at the moment I've kind of learned to live in the present because of all the changes that are happening.
It's hard to plan.
So unpredictable with regards to what's going to happen for the rest of the year. I mean, usually each year we have the run leaders meet in November, and we do a massive plan for the year, and it has all of our races in, it has all of our plans in. But at the moment, you can't predict anything. So for me, our main thing for the rest of the year is to keep up with our challenges, doing a different challenge every month. We've got OJ Not Part Run, which we're running, which has been a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's try and still keep connected with people online and try and get them out that front door. From then on in, who knows? But
I think some of the ambitions are for the club, certainly, though. There's some of the groups that are not a million miles away from here, so when things get back to normal, kind of maybe meeting up with them for some inter-club kind of meets and things like that would be really nice to do and start to kind of build that network out. And I won't say, because Sally will punch me in the face for committing something like that, but there's not honestly, she's very violent. Yeah, there's not enough junior park runs around here for me. So
right, okay,
that might be something that I look at.
Yeah. No, that'd be a great project. I think that'd be a fantastic thing to focus on. Yeah.
The impact that we can have at the size that we're at now can be quite significant on that. So that's something personally that I'd like to help the club explore a little bit more.
Absolutely. Well, guys, it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you about this. Ossy Joggers, if anyone's interested who's listening, on social, on Instagram and Facebook?
On Facebook, if you just search Ossy Joggers, you will find us. And on Instagram, it's Ossy_Joggers.
Guys, thank you so much for coming on. What I'd like to do, apart from have a direct message from Lynn to say that she listened and loved it, is just read you a quote that I noted down, something I found online, one of you guys had quoted. I thought I'd finish with this. The current situation in the world has taken its toll on us. We have made it our mission to bring joy and happiness to each and every one of our members, showing that by lacing up and stepping out that front door, anything is possible that you set your mind to. Simon and Sally, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you'd like to help support the podcast or Jog On in general, you can purchase a Jog On top. You can email a size request to thisisjogon@gmail.com and we'll get straight back to you. The other thing you can do is share this episode with a friend who might also enjoy listening. It really helps us to grow. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'm Harry Morgan. I'm sure that we'll be able to race and run again in the not too distant future. Stay safe out there and jog on.